All right, so today we are going to talk about the 2022 U.S. Senate election in Ohio. Now, as far back as most of us can remember, Ohio has been a very important state because it's very competitive, and you can see that by looking at its past elections that it just swings back and forth between Republican and Democrat pretty often. So, winning Ohio is very important because it can help determine which party will control the majority in the U.S. Senate. And this year was no exception. Now, this year, uh, the big deal this year is that longtime Republican Senator Rob Portman retired. And this was a big deal because that meant, first of all, the Republican primary would be wide open, so anybody could get the nomination. It also meant that the Democrats would not have to deal with the incumbent advantage that comes with Rob Portman being the current U.S. Senator from Ohio. So it meant that they had a pretty good chance at pickup, too. Now, even though Ohio's a competitive state in recent years, like if we look at the 2016 election, we see it's been trending further and further to the right, and Republicans have been more and more favored in recent years. So, one of the reasons that this year's election was important was we were going to see, hey, without Donald Trump on the ballot, is Ohio really becoming a lean Republican state, or is it still truly a purple state? And so first, our story kind of begins in the Republican primary, which was just wide open. You see just a whole swath of candidates competed, like the main two ones being former state treasurer Josh Mandel and author J.D. Vance. Now, it was very competitive. If you look at polling, you can see that it went back and forth quite a bit with Mandel in the lead for most of the election. But then J.D. Vance got the endorsement of former President Donald Trump. And as you can see, that propelled him to victory, winning in the Republican primary. On the Democratic side, um, there were a couple other candidates, but longtime Democratic Congressman Tim Ryan just blew them out of the water, and he was very easily the Democratic candidate. Now, in this year's polling, Tim Ryan led for a good percentage of the year, but a lot of people knew that J.D. Vance had a very good shot of winning. And both of them ran campaigns trying to appeal to white working class voters in Ohio. J.D. Vance attacked Tim Ryan by trying to associate him with Democratic leaders like Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. Meanwhile, Tim Ryan attempted to push back and say that J.D. Vance abandoned Ohio, went to the West Coast to become a venture capitalist, and that he's rubbing his shoulders with all these elites, and that he kind of abandoned his roots. And so both of them tried to appeal to white working class voters. But in the end, J.D. Vance ended up beating Tim Ryan by 53% to 46%. So that kind of does solidify that Ohio is becoming a lean Republican state. Although it is worth noting that Tim Ryan did pretty well. If you look at his results compared to the 2016 results, he did a lot better than in 2016. So there are signs for hope for both parties in Ohio after this year's election, even though overall the Republicans won it this year. But there is hope for Democrats in the future.